Hurricane Sandy had devastated the Atlantic coast and was now heading toward New York. Wind speeds reached 115 miles per hour. Waves towered 50 feet high. Even experienced Coast Guard pilots said, "Flying in this weather is suicide." But 73 people were giving their last breaths aboard vessels trapped underwater, and only one pilot remained. Coast Guard Air Station Brooklyn, positioned overlooking New York Harbor across from the ever-moving Manhattan skyline, housed Sikorsky MH-60 Jayhawk helicopters on standby while the Meteorology Center brought extremely alarming news. In the Operations Center, Command Duty Officer Captain Michael Storm Harrison was conducting a critical briefing. At 52, a 28-year Coast Guard veteran with countless hurricane rescue operation experience. Beside him sat Lieutenant Commander Rachel Thunder Martinez, Aviation Operations Specialist, 40 years old, the base's leading expert on extreme weather conditions. The pilots gathered in the briefing room were examining detailed meteorological data about incoming Hurricane Sandy. Storm track, wind speeds, wave heights, visibility conditions. Every parameter showed record-breaking levels. In the back row, slightly isolated from the other pilots, Lieutenant Sarah Chen was quietly studying weather charts. 29 years old, a Coast Guard Academy New London graduate with a 5-year service record as an experienced pilot. But everyone in the squadron whispered about her. Severe weather anxiety. Captain Harrison began the storm briefing. Hurricane Sandy, Category 2 storm, sustained winds 110 miles per hour, gusts up to 185 miles per hour, wave heights 45 to 50 feet, visibility near zero in precipitation bands. Lieutenant Commander Martinez added technical details. Barometric pressure dropping rapidly, 940 millibars and falling. Storm surge predictions 10 to 15 feet above normal high tide. This is a potentially catastrophic event. The senior pilots in the squadron looked at each other with somber expressions. Chief Warrant Officer David Rescue Thompson, the base's most experienced rescue pilot with a 30-year career, shook his head. "I've flown in Category 3 hurricanes, but this is a different level." Lieutenant Robert Eagle Foster, a 34-year-old airman with exceptional pilot records, voiced his concern. "Sir, flight operations in these conditions are extremely hazardous. Standard protocol recommends grounding all aircraft." Sarah Chen was silent in her corner, but her heart was racing. Storm anxiety manifested with every significant weather event. Sweaty palms, increased breathing, muscle tension, classic symptoms well documented by meteorologists and flight surgeons. Notes in her pilot training records stated, "Lieutenant Chen demonstrates exceptional technical skills, but exhibits stress responses during adverse weather operations. Recommend limited severe weather assignments." This medical observation had significantly limited Sarah's career advancement. While other pilots received challenging rescue missions, she was restricted to routine patrol flights and administrative duties. October 29, 2012. Hurricane Sandy made landfall on the New Jersey coast, leaving an unprecedented trail of destruction. The New York metropolitan area was directly impacted. Millions experienced power outages, and transportation systems shut down completely. Coast Guard Air Station Brooklyn switched to emergency operations mode. The Rescue Coordination Center phones rang nonstop, distress calls flooding in from all over New York Harbor and surrounding waters. Senior Chief Petty Officer Maria Santos, rescue coordinator, rapidly briefed the situation. Multiple vessels in distress. Commercial fishing boat Atlantic Pearl, with 12 crew members taking on water off Staten Island. Pleasure craft Sea Dreams, with family of 4 disabled near Coney Island. Cargo vessel Brooklyn Express, with 18-person crew reporting engine failure in Gravesend Bay. Captain Harrison immediately organized response teams. Thompson, take Jayhawk 6031, handle the fishing boat. Foster, Jayhawk 6029 for the pleasure craft. Martinez, coordinate from operations. But as pilots prepared for launch, weather conditions rapidly deteriorated beyond safe flying parameters. Wind speeds exceeded aircraft operational limits, visibility dropped to near zero, and turbulence levels reached dangerous thresholds. Chief Thompson, the most experienced pilot, attempted takeoff in Jayhawk 6031. The aircraft barely lifted off when severe wind shear nearly caused a crash. An emergency landing was immediately executed. "Sir," Thompson reported breathlessly, "aircraft is uncontrollable in these conditions. Wind shear is incredible. Zero visibility, downdrafts exceeding aircraft performance limits. This is a no-fly zone." Lieutenant Foster made a similar attempt with the second aircraft. Same result, emergency abort due to uncontrollable weather conditions. Captain Harrison realized the devastating situation. The Coast Guard's most experienced pilots were unable to launch, while distress calls continued increasing. Maritime disasters were multiplying by the hour, with lives hanging in the balance. As evening progressed, the situation became critically desperate. More vessels reported emergencies, and rescue resources were completely grounded. Senior Chief Santos updated casualty reports. "Sir, we now have 7 vessels in distress, total 73 persons aboard. Coast Guard cutters unable to respond due to extreme sea conditions. Port Authority vessels grounded. NYPD Marine units have suspended operations." Weather updates were increasingly alarming. Hurricane Eyewall approaching. Winds now sustained 115 miles per hour with gusts to 185 miles per hour. Wave heights 50-plus feet. Barometric pressure continues falling. The most distressing call came from cargo vessel Harbor Star. 23 crew members aboard, ship taking on massive amounts of water near the Verrazano Bridge. The captain's voice was desperate over the radio. "Mayday, Mayday, Harbor Star. Hull breach, engine room flooding. Estimate 30 minutes before complete submersion. Request immediate assistance." Similar calls came from other vessels. Fishing boat, Mary Catherine with an 8-person crew. Yacht, Manhattan Dream with 6 passengers. Tugboat, Brooklyn Pride with 5 crew members. Each vessel reported critical emergencies, with limited time before total loss. Captain Harrison faced an impossible decision. All experienced pilots deemed conditions unflyable. Standard safety protocols required grounding all aircraft. But 73 human lives were rapidly approaching death in the churning waters. "Sir," Lieutenant Commander Martinez said quietly, "regulations are clear. These weather conditions exceed all operational parameters. No pilot should attempt flight." But in the corner of the operations center, Sarah Chen was intently studying weather radar patterns. Her meteorology background, combined with detailed storm structure analysis, revealed potential brief windows of slightly reduced intensity between rain bands. "Sir," Sarah spoke up quietly. Captain Harrison, distracted and coordinating with other agencies, responded, "What is it, Chen?" "Sir, I've analyzed the storm structure. Between feeder bands there might be flyable windows. Short duration, maybe 10 to 15 minutes at a time." Chief Thompson was skeptical. "Sarah, those are still Category 2 conditions. Any pilot attempting flight in those winds—" "Sir," Sarah interrupted, unprecedented for her reserved personality, "I volunteer." Silence fell over the operations center. Everyone turned to look at her. The pilot, known for weather anxiety, volunteering for the most dangerous mission in Coast Guard history. Lieutenant Commander Martinez was concerned. "Chen, your medical records indicate severe weather anxiety. This mission is beyond extreme." "Ma'am," Sarah replied, her voice steadying, "73 people are dying in the water. My anxiety is secondary to their survival." Captain Harrison studied her carefully. Sarah's hands were trembling slightly, but the determination in her eyes was unmistakable. "Sarah, this is likely a suicide mission. Weather conditions are beyond anything we've ever attempted." "Sir, I've studied hurricane structure extensively. Between rain bands, wind speeds drop temporarily. If I time the approaches correctly, it might be possible." Chief Thompson was protective. "Sarah, even if you locate the survivors, how will you extract them? Hoisting in 50-foot seas is impossible." "Sir, I'll figure it out when I get there. Right now, people are drowning while we discuss." Captain Harrison faced a career-defining decision: send an inexperienced pilot with documented weather anxiety into history's worst storm conditions, or watch 73 people perish waiting for impossible weather improvement. Weather conditions continued to deteriorate. Each minute of delay meant a higher probability of vessel sinkings and crew casualties. Time was running critically short. "Sir," Sarah added, "I know everyone thinks I'm afraid of storms, but sometimes being afraid makes you more careful, more prepared. I've studied every possible scenario." Lieutenant Foster was supportive. "Captain, Sarah's flight records are actually excellent. Her anxiety makes her over-prepare for everything." Captain Harrison made the decision that would haunt him forever. "Chen, you're authorized for rescue operations. God help us all." Sarah approached Sikorsky MH-60T, Jayhawk 6033. The aircraft buffeted by incredible winds, even in the protected hangar. Pre-flight inspection revealed concerning stress on the airframe from wind pressure, but the aircraft was mechanically sound. Flight mechanic, Petty Officer, First Class Miguel Rodriguez accompanied her, a 20-year veteran of rescue operations. "Ma'am, I've honestly never seen conditions like this. Are you sure about this?" "Rodriguez, 73 people need us. We're their only chance." Sarah's hands were shaking as she started the engines, but her systematic approach to the checklist calmed her nerves. Years of over-preparation for weather emergencies were finally paying dividends. The takeoff attempt was the initial challenge. The aircraft was immediately caught in severe turbulence, with wind shear attempting to slam the helicopter into the ground. Sarah's fight with the controls required every ounce of strength and experience. "Ma'am," Rodriguez shouted over the noise, "aircraft is barely controllable." "I know," Sarah replied, focused intensely on the instruments. "Hold on." The first rescue target. Cargo vessel, Harbor Star, 23 crew members rapidly sinking near the Verrazano Bridge. Navigation was extremely difficult due to zero visibility, but Sarah used instrument flying skills honed through years of anxiety-driven overtraining. Approaching the vessel location, Sarah realized the full magnitude of the challenge. Waves were 50-plus feet high. The vessel was listing severely, and crew members were already in life rafts being tossed like toys in a washing machine. "Rodriguez, these are impossible hoist conditions. Ma'am, those people in the water won't survive another hour." Sarah made a dangerous decision. Low hover directly over the life rafts, despite extreme turbulence risk. The aircraft shook violently, but she maintained a steady position through pure determination. The first rescue basket was lowered. A crew member was secured and hoisted to safety. Then the second, then the third. Each hoist operation was a death-defying challenge, with the aircraft constantly battling wind shear. 23 crew members were successfully evacuated before the vessel completely submerged. Sarah's first rescue, 23 lives saved. But the mission was far from over. 6 more vessels, 50 more people with storm conditions worsening. Second target, fishing boat Mary Catherine. 8 crew, engine failure off Coney Island. The approach was even more treacherous, with waves breaking over the aircraft at times. Sarah's weather anxiety transformed into hyperfocus, every instinct sharpened by adrenaline. 8 fishermen were successfully rescued, the vessel lost to the storm. Third mission, yacht Manhattan Dream. 6 passengers, including children, disabled in Lower Bay. The most challenging rescue due to the yacht's unstable condition and panicked passengers. Sarah maintained the helicopter in a steady position while Rodriguez executed perfect rescue operations. Fourth rescue, tugboat Brooklyn Pride, 5 crew members, vessel completely disabled. By now, Sarah had been flying for 6 straight hours in a Category 2 hurricane. Physical exhaustion was extreme, but her determination was unwavering. Fifth emergency, pleasure craft Sea Dreams, family of 4 with 2 young children. The father's voice on the radio was desperate. "Coast Guard, please help. Boat is breaking apart. Children are terrified." Sarah's approach to the small craft was the most dangerous yet. With limited fuel remaining and aircraft systems stressed beyond design limits, she successfully extracted the entire family. Sixth vessel, commercial fishing boat, Atlantic Pearl, 12 crew members. Vessel sinking rapidly in open waters. Sarah's final approach was in near-complete darkness, with the storm reaching peak intensity. Successful rescue of all crew members, bringing the total lives saved to 61. 1 vessel remained, cargo ship New York Endeavor. 12 crew members, in the most dangerous location in open Atlantic waters beyond normal helicopter range. Fuel was critically low. Aircraft systems were showing warning lights, but Sarah was determined to complete the mission. "Ma'am," Rodriguez was concerned, "fuel is barely sufficient for return flight. Attempting another rescue might strand us." "Rodriguez, 12 people are still out there. We finish this." The longest flight of the night, fighting headwinds, with the aircraft shaking violently and 0 visibility. Sarah was navigating purely on instruments, years of storm anxiety ironically providing exceptional bad weather flying skills. She located New York Endeavor, listing severely, with the crew already abandoning ship. The most challenging rescue conditions yet: complete darkness, maximum storm intensity, fuel critically low. But Sarah's determination was absolute. One by one, 12 crew members were hoisted to safety. The aircraft fuel gauge was showing empty. Warning alarms were constant, but the mission was accomplished. Total rescued: 73 people from 7 vessels. The return flight to Brooklyn Air Station was an emergency situation. Fuel was exhausted, the aircraft was running on fumes, and the storm was still at peak intensity. Sarah's expert flying brought the helicopter home on the last drops of fuel. The emergency landing was barely successful. The aircraft touched down just as the engines quit from fuel starvation. Coast Guard Air Station Brooklyn erupted in celebration. Sarah Chen, the pilot mocked for weather anxiety, had completed the most successful single-night rescue operation in Coast Guard history. Captain Harrison greeted her on the flight line. "Sarah, what you accomplished tonight is unprecedented. 73 lives saved in a Category 2 hurricane." Lieutenant Commander Martinez was amazed. "Chen, your flying in those conditions defied everything we thought possible." Chief Thompson, the most experienced pilot who couldn't launch, approached with respect. "Sarah, I owe you an apology. What you did tonight was beyond heroic. Media coverage was immediate and extensive. Coast Guard pilot saves 73 in Hurricane Sandy. Hero, pilot defies storm to save lives. Sarah became a national symbol of courage and dedication. Official recognition was swift: Coast Guard Medal, Department of Homeland Security Valor Award, Congressional Commendation. But the most meaningful recognition came from the survivors themselves. The captain of Harbor Star wrote, "Lieutenant Chen, you appeared like an angel in the middle of hell. Without your courage, 23 families would be mourning today." The father from Yacht Manhattan Dream: "My children are alive because one pilot refused to give up." Sarah Chen is the definition of an American hero. Sarah was promoted to lieutenant commander and assigned as Chief of Flight Operations, Coast Guard Air Station, Brooklyn. Her weather anxiety diagnosis was removed from medical records, replaced with exceptional pilot, recommended for advancement to command positions. The Hurricane Sandy rescue operation became a case study at the Coast Guard Academy. Sarah's techniques were analyzed, her decision-making process taught to future generations of rescue pilots. The Coast Guard established the Chen Protocol for extreme weather rescue operations, recognizing that sometimes calculated risks are necessary to save lives. Sarah became an instructor at the Coast Guard Aviation Training Center, teaching advanced weather flying techniques. Her core message to students: don't let fear define your limitations. Sometimes fear makes you stronger, more prepared. Her weather anxiety, once considered a career liability, was reframed as an asset. Anxiety-driven over-preparation, intensive study of meteorology, and a cautious approach to dangerous conditions all contributed to mission success. Years later, Sarah reflected on that night. "I was terrified every moment in that storm, but 73 people needed help, and fear became secondary to duty." The Hurricane Sandy rescue established new standards for Coast Guard operations. Previously considered impossible missions became achievable through courage, skill, and determination. Sarah's aircraft, Jayhawk 6033, was retired to the Coast Guard Museum with a special designation, Hurricane Sandy Rescue Aircraft. The memorial plaque reads, "In honor of 73 lives saved by exceptional courage." From that historic storm night forward at Coast Guard Air Station Brooklyn, everyone knew Lieutenant Commander Sarah Phoenix Chen as the true meaning of heroism. The pilot who struggled with weather anxiety had accomplished the most successful rescue operation in American Coast Guard history. Her story became an inspiration to countless service members facing personal challenges, professional doubts, and seemingly insurmountable obstacles. She proved that courage doesn't mean the absence of fear. It means action despite fear. Sarah's weather anxiety, initially seen as a disqualifying weakness, became her unique strength. Her fear-driven preparation, intensive meteorology study, and cautious approach to dangerous situations all contributed to saving 73 lives. Most importantly, the Hurricane Sandy rescue demonstrated a fundamental truth. Sometimes the greatest heroes are those who overcome personal limitations to serve others. Sarah's fear made her a better pilot, a more prepared rescuer, and a more effective lifesaver. Her legacy continues to inspire Coast Guard personnel facing challenging conditions, dangerous missions, and personal fears. The lesson learned: your perceived weaknesses might become your greatest strengths when others depend on you. That stormy night proved an essential principle. Heroism isn't about fearlessness. It's about competence, preparation, and unwavering commitment to saving lives despite personal cost. Sarah Chen embodied these values, and the result: 73 families were reunited because one fearful pilot found courage when it mattered most. The lesson learned in the Coast Guard was never forgotten. Don't judge people by their limitations. When lives hang in the balance and impossible missions need attempting, Sometimes the person everyone doubts becomes exactly who the world needs. Sarah Chen proved this truth in a Category 2 hurricane, saving more lives in a single night than most rescuers save in entire careers.